All right, Coach, if you're ready, floor is yours.
All right, everybody. Happy New Year, and good to be with you guys. We certainly, as it stands right now, are on track to travel tomorrow to Nebraska and play. I think a Nebraska team that is coming off a win and playing with confidence and presents a lot of challenges for us here. So. I think obviously we've not had a pause like this before, so we've tried to do some things to make sure that we are best prepared for returning to action here. So I'll take questions here.
All right, we'll go ahead and start it with Adam Jardy and Griffin Strom on deck. Adam.
Well, Chris, I think we're all excited to see you play another game. How complete will the roster be on Sunday?
Yeah, we'll kind of give an availability list sometime before the game, Adam. But I think we'll have the majority of our roster that will be healthy enough and ready to play.
And you guys seem to be in a pretty good groove right before this happened. The way that overall you guys seem to be playing. Do you see it being realistic that you guys get back to that, or when you get back to whatever optimal level is, will you guys look stylistically different because you've had so much time off?
It's the unknown, really. It's kind of the great unknown how this is going to affect us. I do think there's a conditioning element, a game conditioning element that you lose when you don't just have a chance to play games and you don't have the timing in the conditioning that comes with playing games. I think that's natural. There will be some of that. We've had a lot of our guys that have had to have a 10-day quarantine where they couldn't do anything, were unable to do anything physically. So when you're an elite athlete and now you've taken 10 full days off from any kind of activity, followed by another week or so of limited activity, there is some degree of atrophy that takes place, I think. What that looks like collectively, I don't know yet. I'll be anxious to see, but regardless is we have an opportunity to play, and that's what we're excited about, and we need to be ready to play well.
Griffin Strom up and Colin Gay on deck. Griffin.
Coach, obviously it would be challenging to make this return after this long layoff, no matter who you were playing, but can you speak to maybe the heightened concern of having to come back and play, a bunch of Big Ten games now in a row as this gauntlet stretch kind of starts?
Yeah, we really looked to try to, we wanted to add obviously a game after Christmas. And then when that game got canceled, we did want to add another one. To your point and Adam's point, we were in such a good rhythm before the pause that you wanted to try to get back to playing as well as we were before that. But I believe, we've got a lot of the season left and we can get back to playing at that level, certainly when we get to full strength. But we did look at trying to add another game, even, maybe a couple days after. It still wasn't quite feasible with our numbers. And we're potentially looking at trying to find another window to maybe add another game at some point that was lost here. One of these two home games that was lost.
And could you speak to maybe a level of frustration for you and the players? Would you describe that as kind of an emotion you've been feeling during this layoff?
I think it's frustrating, but it comes with the territory and with the climate we're in right now. I know they were frustrated. I know they were, and but they handled it well, and they understand that it's out of our control. We've all been vaccinated. We've done our part with that. Certain guys are looking at opportunities to take advantage of the boosters. Several in our program, coaches have right now, and a player or two. But they understand it's kind of part of where we're at right now.
All right, Colin Gay up and Patrick Murphy next up. Colin.
Chris, how was, I mean, the first practice once you guys got back? How, I mean, was there a different energy knowing that there were games to play for, there wasn't that uncertainty, or what was it like to get everybody back in the room preparing for this one, knowing that it was coming?
No, I think they were excited. They were excited to get back. Yeah, they were excited to get back for sure. You know, they're excited to have games in front of them and have this pause kind of behind them. They were excited to get back together as a group. Yesterday was really the first time we had our full group, at least they could be back in kind of a film setting. I think they were glad to get back for sure.
And Griffin was talking a little bit about like frustration, and I don't know what the numbers were in terms of, you know, how many positive cases there were, how many guys had to do 10-day quarantine, but for those guys that weren't really affected by this, I mean, everybody was affected, but the guys that did not test positive and kind of were able to, but were still sitting out, was there an anxiousness, an increased anxiousness from those guys, or kind of explain the just the feelings that like those guys that may have not been affected by it? I mean, how were they feeling? How did this process go for them?
Were they anxious about getting sick?
No, I mean, about getting sick, about getting back. I mean, if they weren't affected, like, were they practicing or?
Yeah, no, they were doing limited. They were doing one-on-one skill. That's all we could do for a little bit is one coach, one player skill, gloves, mask, the whole thing in the middle of it. So they were doing that. But they recognize this is a team thing. If your team can't play, you're part of the team, and there was no blame to be assigned to anybody in particular. I think they recognized it was just part of, again, this climate that they're in right now. There was heightened awareness about some things they could do to maybe keep themselves from getting it. But no, there was, it was just a collective kind of disappointment, but they moved beyond it pretty quickly.
All right, Patrick's up. Steve Hellwagon on deck. Patrick.
Chris, what is the ramp up process like to get guys back? I know you've had individual guys that have had to come back before, but when you have as many guys as this, getting everybody back, and as Colin pointed out, there were guys that were just doing individual stuff. What's the ramp up process to be back to play after such a long layoff?
Well, it's you need to get them some up and down play. They start the first day is really just a skill workout with the position coach, monitored by our medical staff. That's the first day. That's 45 minutes, kind of monitoring their heart rate and where they're at physically. That's with our training staff and Q, our strength coach. And then practice the next day is somewhat limited, maybe 50 to 70% of what the players would do. And then after that, they're pretty much full go as tolerated. And
then if you're looking for a positive out of this, are you any closer with a guy like Justice, a guy like Seth, to getting back? Could that be something that comes out of it, that you guys have these guys closer, or are they available at this point?
No, they're not available, and won't be. But they continue to make progress, and I'm really just kind of at this point waiting on I'm waiting to hear something in terms of they're doing a really good job with rehab. I've kind of stopped checking with our training staff. I'll just wait for them to kind of say, hey, listen, he's a week or two away, but I've obviously asked them about how they're progressing, and they've done a really good job with rehab and are progressing.
All right, next up, Steve Hellwagon with Whitney Harding on deck. Steve.
Yep, I was going to ask about Justice, but seems like you covered that there in a decent enough extent. Kyle Young, when the season was halted, he had a game or two where he was really starting to get into a groove. And just what would it mean if he's able to give you, just as an example, 12 and 6, something like that every game? And I know you don't reduce it to number production, but just get that type of help for EJ from him on a consistent basis.
Yeah, so critical, Steve. So critical, because what we know with Kyle is he provides other things that impact winning, right? So it's not always about his point production for him. He provides an awareness defensively, an activity on the glass, an ability to rebound outside of his area, the ability to get 50-50 balls. And he doesn't take bad shots and he doesn't turn it over. So he allows your other guys to play in an effective way. So, I think when he can give us regular scoring like that, which we've seen him do, we saw him do at Penn State. We saw him rebound really well against Wisconsin, but when he can provide double-figure scoring, which I'm with you, I think he was getting into a rhythm where I think he could be, that next double-figure scorer for us, or at least approach that. We really need that for us to reach, particularly with Justice and Seth out, for us to reach a level. You need that consistency from Kyle. I think we can still win without that, but we need it for us to reach another level of play.
Yep. And I'll also ask about Nebraska. Coach Hoiberg, I think his third year there, and it's kind of like his third reboot in 3 years there, it looks like. And it's been a revolving door of players, and continuity has seemed to be an issue there. Just what do you see there? And are you walking in to a tough situation because they're desperate for any kind of positive result, a victory of some sort, a breakthrough? And could they be catching you guys at the right time? I don't know. What's your thought about what they've got going on there?
Well, I think you can look at it that way. The thing about Nebraska that I think you see with this team and with this previous teams is great pace. Fred's teams have always played with great pace and great spacing offensively. They have some really young, talented guys. They have a transfer at the point guard spot who's a really, really tough matchup. And to your point there's certainly going to be a hungry team. It's also, as you guys know who've been there before, it's always a great environment. They have a great fan following in Lincoln. It's very much a basketball arena, and it's a tremendous home court advantage. And we need to be ready for that and ready for what's coming for sure. And control what we can control, and that is our approach and our readiness to play in a game like this for sure.
Thanks.
All right, next up is Whitney Harding with Adam King on deck. Whitney.
Hey, Chris, Steve kind of stole my question. But with the pace that they play and how they play through their guards, is that even more of a challenge coming off this long break than maybe your traditional Big Ten inside kind of matchup?
Yeah, Whitney, I think it's they have played as fast as anybody in the league, really, in Fred's short time there. And their pace is better. Their pace is good on the road, but it's even better at home. They shoot it better at home. They have as good a shooting team as they've had. And we have talked about that in the last couple of days, to your point about making sure our guys are ready for that pace coming off of a layoff. And that's why we're trying to play a little bit more. We've called some other programs who've had stoppages this year or years past and say, hey, is there something you would do differently, going into it? You can't simulate because you're also trying to bring your guys back at a level where they don't get hurt or fatigued and not be ready to play. So there's a balance there with their legs. But it is something we have thought about going into it because of their pace.
And with this time that you guys have had away, I mean, it's early in the season. Every team's still kind of trying to find themselves, find these leaders. What have you seen from some of your older guys, your leaders? I mean, EJ is not an older guy, but, those guys getting this group through this kind of weird craziness.
Yeah, they've been good. They've been good. I think our captains, I would throw Jamari in that now. I think he's earned that. But our captains of EJ, Kyle, Justin, obviously Justice has still been out. But those guys have done a really good job kind of leading having a readiness to practice here as we've returned. And I think they also understand and have great respect for Nebraska in the challenges of jumping back into league play. So, I like where they're at, but again, that's always something that you're anxious to see on game night too.
Next up, Adam King with Spencer Holbrook on deck. Adam.
Coach, I'm sure you've dealt with a lot throughout your career, but when you started coaching, you probably didn't think about having to take a pause like this mid-season. Where does it kind of rank of the toughest things you've had to deal with in your career now that hopefully it's at the end here?
Yeah, I think we are, certainly at the end. I'm optimistic of that. Listen, I think there are more challenges, certainly that coaches can face. But it's a challenge. There's no question. And I think particularly when you already have a couple injuries you're dealing with, and then you're trying to figure out how to put from day to day what your roster could look like. But, I'm just really grateful in some ways that it happened when it happened, because you have a chance to, and hopefully again, we'll be able to get one of those games back, one of those home games back. But you're kind of glad that, it didn't happen at a time where we were going to miss a significant amount of Big Ten play.
You talked, during the pause about how you really wanted to get some games under your belt before Big Ten play. Yeah. Since you didn't get that opportunity, how much do you think Sunday is going to tell you about this team, kind of where they are based off of the season, even though they've dealt with a pause? I
think we'll know how this pause has affected us, after Sunday night. And again, it's not to make an excuse if we don't play well, because we need to go prepared to face a really challenging team and opponent, and need to be prepared to play well. But I think we'll have a better feel for that. But I also think that, listen, I've said this from the beginning, this is in college basketball, this is about how do you evolve and grow from week to week. This is not about one particular night or one particular game. This is about continual growth and evolving as a team. And that's what's in front of us.
All right, we'll go last couple here. Spencer Holbrook, and then one follow-up each from Jardy and Colin Gates. Spencer.
Yeah, I think it's more team wide. I would have loved to have gotten those younger guys, and I would include the new guys, a guy like Cedric. I would have loved to have gotten those guys the 3 games that were missed, but it just wasn't meant to be. And we've kind of, we're moving beyond it. But certainly, I would have loved to get those guys more game experience. A lot of film. We've had a chance to do some film with him, sit down with him, show him some of those things that he's done really, really well. I agree with you. I think he's had some really good moments, and then show him some things that, some areas that he's maybe needs to improve in. So a lot of film in film work in general. That's been one of the things we've been able to do, as well as some stuff on the floor.
All right, last 2 follow-ups here. Adam and Colin. Go ahead, Adam.
Chris, you've mentioned getting to talk to different programs and trying to reach out to people and get advice. Have there been common threads on what you should be doing or what you should expect when you get back? I mean, I know some of the data says it takes 2-3 games before you're back to your normal self, but have there been common threads as you've had conversations with other coaches that have gone through this?
Yeah, try to play as much as you can. That's been, which for those, that haven't been a part of a college practice, it's a lot, at times it can be a lot of teaching. It's a lot of strategy. it's implementation of new offensive, some new offensive package, some new defensive package. It's tweaking some things defensively. It's all those things that go into drill work. But they felt like playing would be important, and which I kind of anticipated them saying, but some have said, hey, I wish we would have played even more.
And we'll finish up with Colin.
Perfect. Kind of a big picture question with this. I mean, you guys have been through a little bit of everything, whether it's a stoppage, whether it's, big time wins, buzzer beating wins, buzzer beating losses. I mean, is this just kind of an addition to what unites this team, what drives this team as a whole? Like, what does it do in terms of your personal message to the team moving forward? Do you just kind of add it to the list, or how do you kind of coach them through kind of just, you guys have been a part of through a little bit of everything. So do you just add it to the list, or is this kind of a different kind of something to deal with?
Yeah. I mean, our season to this point certainly hasn't lacked excitement or drama in any way in terms of our games, being down to the wire. And I think that's part of kind of what our story's been so far. And I think that's, that's a good thing. And I think that's helpful. I do think that, both if you're a college athlete or a college player right now, adapting, if you're a college coach, you've had to adapt to changing times here in the last, 5 to 10 years, whether it's the transfer portal in college basketball that now college football is seeing, or just whatever. You've had to really adapt, and that's just part of our job. You got to adapt or die, so to speak. So I think for us, that's been kind of the message. And again, it's a great opportunity. You get the opportunity to play, and that's exciting. And I think that's the good thing to look forward to, is we have a lot of the season left and a lot of stories left to be written. So that's the exciting thing. So I would like to say, in final note, we're wishing our guy Dwayne Washington well. He's got his first start in the NBA tonight. So D-Wash, we love you, and we're pulling for you to play well and go get that Pacers W. Proud of our guy D-Wash, and excited for him. I know he's excited, and we love him. And obviously we got our brothers in Pasadena. We're pulling for them here this weekend. Big game in the Rose Bowl, and we are pulling for those guys, and excited to watch that game tomorrow night. I know we got some other teams, our women, battling right now as well, but wanted to wish those guys, the football team, well tomorrow. Excited to watch those guys here once we get to Lincoln.
All right, Coach, thanks for your time.
Okay.